Hello, everyone. Today we have with us an absolute genius. She's going to tell you how to get your degree debt free. We have Miss Elizabeth Rosner with us tonight. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I am great, Theresa. I'm telling you, it is a delight to be with you and with your audience. And thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
And I am more excited than you are because we have so many people that are in debt with college loans already. And so, if we can do anything to save people, students, from getting into debt, even from the first place, that's why we have you here. So, I am so glad that you're here because I know in my heart that you're going to change some lives. You know, if we just change one,
Amen.
yeah,
Yes.
that's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
now I would ask if you could introduce yourself to the audience.
I would love to. So, hello, beloveds. I'm Elizabeth Rosner. My students call me Dr. Roz. I am so delighted to be here with Theresa. Excited to talk to you all about debt-free degree. People often ask me, how did I get into this? And we can talk about that in a little bit. I'll just say that I've been actively teaching debt-free degree since 2005. So that's just a little bit about me. I believe that debt-free degree is a form of Kingian nonviolence. I'm a certified trainer of nonviolence from the Martin Luther King Center here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so love to talk about that connection. And just, Theresa, you all have this, have that episode about generational wealth. That's exactly what I say. When you walk across the stage and you have not taken student loan debt, you are immediately building personal and generational wealth, because every time you say yes to those student loans, somebody else is making money. We don't want those people making money. We want you to make money the minute you walk off that stage.
Right. And then can you touch on too, like some of the students, they graduate with these degrees, they have student loan debt, and the degree choices that they have chosen, it would take them a lifetime
Yes.
to pay this
Yes.
debt back. Can we talk
Yes.
on that just a little bit?
Absolutely. So I use the GRIT blueprint, GRIT, that acronym GRIT.
Mhm.
I use it in all kinds of ways in all different facets of my business. But when it comes to debt-free degree, the GRIT blueprint is G, grants and scholarships. I'll just say, do y'all know there's 46 billion with a B, $46 billion in grants and scholarships out there. The R is return on investment. We'll come back to that. The I is interconnection. That's the I in every time I use the GRIT blueprint. And then the T is my proven triangle approach. So if you think about a three-legged stool, there's SM, the student money. There's FM, your friends, your family, your folks, the people you're familiar with. And then OPM is that third leg. And do you know what OPM is, Theresa?
Unfortunately, it's other people's money that they're gonna
Other
want.
people's money. Yes, yes. I'm so glad that you knew what that was. So, coming back to your original question, the R is return on investment. And so, in the debt free degree curriculum, if you're a part of a debt free degree club, that's what we talk about. How are you researching these majors and making sure that you've got, return on investment? I recently met with some folks, and it was students and parents. And every single parent in this group, it was a relatively small group, but every single parent in this group had student loan debt. And one of these ladies, beautiful lady, absolutely beautiful lady, one of these ladies had accrued $20,000 in debt and had only gotten through 2 years of her 4-year degree. And she quit because she said, I can't imagine having to pay off $40,000, which means she's paying student loan debt on a degree she never earned. There was another lady in there, Theresa, beautiful, brilliant lady, who had, y'all wait for this, over $200,000 in student loan debt. She's an educator, and every time she wanted a raise, she went and got another degree or another certification or another whatever. And so her school system would give her additional money. She said, I never once thought about how I was going to pay it back.
And so she still has it. The
Oh
200.
yes, she currently is holding $200,000 in debt. Now, I will also say her brilliant son, who was a part of this, because as I said, it was students and families at this gathering. Her son asked me how he could best maximize NIL, and he's in fifth grade. Fifth grade, y'all. He was asking me how to get on the NIL track, which I have a friend that does that. So already she's understanding that she doesn't want her child carrying $200,000 worth of debt.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I cannot overlook this. This is something that really tugged at my heart that is about you. But I see that your brand is love.
It
Can
is.
you please tell us why you chose love as your brand?
When I was 5 years old, and so Theresa, looking at your beautiful face, you are many decades younger than me.
Mm.
So you might not understand, you might not remember this. Certainly, your listening audience may not have ever heard of this, but back in the day when I was young, we had something called shrinky dinks. And shrinky dinks were a piece of plastic, and you would write something or draw something or do whatever, and they would put them in the oven, and it would shrink it down to this little tiny little thing. And when I was 5 years old at the summer camp where I went, I wrote, "God is love, and love is God." And my mom had that on her dresser for my entire life until about a year and a half ago. I said to her, "You know, Mom, when you are on the other side, that's one of my pride, that's one of the things that I want." And my mother is Southern, and she said, "Shook it all, you just go right up there and take it. You take it home with you." And I have it over here, and I look at it every day because I knew at 5 years old, Theresa, that I was to be loving, to bring love to the world, to help 8 billion people today love 8 billion people. And so my overarching business is called Love Revolution. My website is drroz.love. Every page on there ends with .love because it is about loving others. And one way is teaching others to love themselves enough to graduate fully debt free. So that's the incorporation of love. Then you layer in the nonviolence piece, the Kingian nonviolence piece, which I don't I wasn't sure what direction you wanted to go. And so if at some point during this interview and this conversation, you want to talk about the Kingian nonviolence piece, we can as well.
Yes, yes. If we have some time towards the end, we're definitely going to talk about that because I'm curious. And if you're going to educate me, I want my listeners to be educated too.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Good, good. And so the next thing is, I want you to tell us what made you decide to choose the path of helping people get a debt-free degree.
So, when I was born, my parents said, "You are going to college," and they meant 4-year degree. So I was part of that era that that a technical college would not have been a well-received option in terms of my parents. So you are going to college, and we do not go into debt for education. Those were the two messages. And so I knew I was going to college, and I knew I was not going into debt for college. And so I've earned 3 degrees, including my PhD, and I only took $1,000 in. And the reason why I know that it is so easy to walk into financial aid is because it's exactly what happened to me. I was in my undergrad. I was a Pell Grant recipient. Pell Grant didn't pay in the summer. So I walked into financial aid and said, "Where are your list of scholarships? Because I need $1,000 to pay for summer." And she said, "Oh, honey, here's you a student loan. You just take the loans and figure out how to pay it off later." And I needed it. I mean, it was like in a few weeks, and I needed it. And so that's what I did. And so that's where my $1,000 came. Now, one of the things that happened in 2005 is, and this loophole has been closed, thank goodness. But in 2005, when I was working in and around higher ed, then I started hearing students say, my tuition costs, my college costs are here, but I'm taking this maximum amount of loan. Some of those people were taking it because they needed it. Some of the people were taking it because they wanted the hoop-de-doo car. Some of those people were taking it and they were having a good time. I'm talking party every weekend. We'll just figure it out. We don't have to work. We don't have to. And I kept saying, "You've got to pay that back. You've got to pay that back." And so that's where the passion really came in, was 2005. When I started seeing all these students that were graduating $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 in debt. And of course now, as I said, this one woman has over $200,000 in debt. So.
And I'm pretty sure she feels defeated because I am one of those students that you just mentioned. My parents didn't know. They really wasn't that concerned about me going to college. I was like a self-motivator. So I got this student loan, and oh my goodness, I was able to get like $10,000 more than what I needed. I didn't know any better. I didn't know nothing about money back then. So guess what I did?
Yeah.
I got every dime that they would give me.
Yes.
And after I paid my tuition, party over here, party over there, clothes here, clothes there.
Yes.
It was because I did not know any better.
Right.
So that's why I need you to teach us better, because I don't want people to do the same that I did. Because when you get in this student loan debt, even though you may make a salary, you've already promised that money to the loan
Yes.
company. Really,
Yes.
like you may have a salary, but as
Yes.
long as you have that debt over your head,
Yes.
you owe that money really to the
Yes.
people who you borrowed from.
Yes. And here's the thing, Theresa, if you go out and you secure that much in a loan to buy a home or to buy a car,
Oh,
then you do have an asset that you can sell, even if you're upside down in that. I know your folks are, this is money talk. So y'all understand what upside down means. Even if you're upside down in that, you can recoup some of that cost. The
yes.
thing with a degree is you can't sell it to recoup some of your costs. And
Mhm.
some loans, if you pass away, the loan balance passes to your heirs and they have to pay that off before they inherit anything. Some loans. Okay. So here you have this loved one who has passed away. Literally all the knowledge in that person's brain has passed away, and your heirs are still paying because of that. There are stories. There was a story recently in the news about how a woman was really feeling like she was about to face homelessness because she had signed a Parent Plus loan for her daughter. And her daughter had, had some concerns and so wasn't able to pay her portion. So then they were coming to the mom. Well, the mom co-signed to get the daughter the money, but she didn't have the money. And so, her asset was her home. She had what was reported, she was not yet evicted, but they were talking to her about that. There are all these horror stories about it, absolute horror stories about it. So it's why I say that when you say yes to student loans, you're saying yes to somebody else making, and we're all about you, the student, you, the family members making.
Dr. Ross, can you touch on parents co-signing for their children to get these loans? I need you to say something about that because we love our children so much. But this generation, they kind of are selfish. They don't understand what it means if mom and dad signs their name on this loan and they go on and live this happy life and forget about the debt. So I just need you to stress the importance to the parents about co-signing.
Yes, yes, yes. Now I am careful to not, get over my skis and not,
Mhm.
express too many generalities. Okay. So I will say everything that I'm focused on is a debt-free degree. And
Mhm.
I believe that we can map every single degree completely debt-free. What happens is people say, I don't want that path because it's too hard. So I'm going to do this other path. And my response to that is in love, choose your heart.
Wow.
Choose your heart. So, yes, mom and dad, you love that child more
Yeah.
than anything on the planet. And perhaps the best way to love them is to say, let me walk you through a debt-free degree. Like my book on Amazon is $1 on Kindle and $10 to buy the actual book. I mean, we're talking about an investment of $10 or $1 in order to help you save. There are some cost of attendance that's $93,000. So you invest $10 and you can figure out how to save $360,000.
Okay, tell the audience the name of that book.
My book, Debt
Where is it?
Free.
Look, see?
Yes,
Right. So debt
yes,
free degree, and we can
Debt Free
find it on
Degree.
Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Yep. Search Debt Free Degree and Elizabeth Rosner, Dr. Roz, DRROZ, Debt Free Degree. And I lay it all out. I also, parents, have just recently started debt-free degree clubs. And so I have 4 clubs established and looking to establish more. And you can go to my website and look at that and apply to be one of the club founders. So you have access to this information. Depending on, Theresa, when folks hear this, it's entirely possible that I'll still have some slots available. So I'm looking for 10 groups who want to pilot it to be in my next book, which is coming out October of 2025. So it could be that some of your listeners, perhaps if they hear it. So go to drroz.love and then search for clubs and you can see the application process there. So there are so many different ways that we can talk about it. The other way, Theresa, is I offer 2 webinars a month. And folks can attend as often as they want to. And at the end of the webinar, I offer laser coaching. So come and ask questions if you want to. Figure out another way, parents, another way to love your child, because I know that that's your heart. I know your heart is to love your child deeply, completely. And it's entirely possible that you nor your child taking the loans is the most loving thing. It's just that perhaps you haven't heard about it. And that's one of the things that I'm so eager to be on podcasts is because it's what I call the human algorithm. And I didn't coin that term, but this human algorithm is take the loans and figure out how to pay it off later. Take the loans so that your child can have their dream school and their dream experience. Take the loans so that your child, I saw something the other day that parents are spending $5,000, 5000 on dorm, what are they? Dormscapes or dorm, anyway, the interior of a dorm, $5,000. $5,000.
To make the dorm look nice.
Yes. To, have the matchy and the neon and the lights and the, comforters and I mean, if you've got $5,000, delighted. Go spend in love. Delighted. If you're taking loans for that, which some perhaps maybe are, if you're, perhaps thinking big picture, I think what happened, this is my personal opinion. I think what happened, Theresa, is that there was a time that we weren't talking about college for everybody. And then in terms of equity, we started saying college for everybody. Now, Elizabeth believed that every single person, particularly in the United States, needs some type of education or something beyond a high school diploma. It could be concurrently. It could be that you graduate high school and you graduate with your welding certificate at the very same time, but you still needed a little bit more education than secondary school would provide. However, I don't believe that everybody needs a 4-year degree and beyond. Number one.
But why do you believe that?
Because, well, when you look at statistics and you look at how many people are earning degrees versus what is their ROI, you can go and get a technical degree and your salary can be tremendously higher than if you get a 4-year degree in English or political science or something like that. There are ways. Now, that's not all the time. But if you look at, I talked with somebody, this is probably about a month and a half ago. Her brother earned his PhD in English. He loved his job. He was a professor at a community college teaching, making less than $40,000 a year because it's a community college. And he's got all this debt. He's living at home with mom and dad.
With a PhD.
With a PhD. Yeah.
Oh, now that's pretty painful.
Yes. So there's this, and my parents taught it to me. Get as much education as you can and you can write your own ticket. Not today. Not today. That was excellent advice when they handed me that advice to begin with. Not today.
Oh, well, you know what? Can you touch on not today? Yeah, what that means, not today, because to have a PhD and you got to live at home with your parents and you're making $40,000 a year, that is
right. Right. I can speak to my own experience and just say, again, I earned 3 degrees, including my PhD, with only that $1,000 back in my undergrad. So my master's was paid for and my PhD was paid for through a lot of through my triangle approach. I'll say that. I graduated. I applied for over 100 positions. I did not even get one interview. And I will go so far, Theresa, as to say, when I was working on my PhD, I was teaching adjunct for an institution in the College of Education. So I was teaching pre-service teachers. I was voted by the students Teacher of the Year. No adjunct had ever gotten Teacher of the Year. And so when I applied for a full-time position at that institution, I did not get even an interview. At the institution where I was already teaching, where I'd already earned Teacher of the Year, Professor of the Year for College of Education, because I was teaching in College of Education and I didn't have an undergrad in education. So in order to get a full-time job, I would have had to go back and do a post-bac and then do my student teaching and then work K-12 for 3 to 5 years to get the experience to come back as a professor to then earn Teacher of the Year that I'd already earned.
Now that is weird.
Like, it is weird, but this is what happens is schools and jobs, there are jobs out there that the skill set does not require a bachelor's degree and certainly not a master's degree. And there are folks out there that are saying, we want a master's degree and you're going to get $35 a year.
That's ridiculous. Because most schools, even some state schools, depends on where you live, it could be $30,000 a year if you live on campus and have a meal plan and pay for parking.
Easily. There's one school that I saw their parking per semester, $800.
And that's ridiculous.
$800.
And then you don't even have a designated parking spot.
No,
You never
no.
found a park in the lot that they say you can park in and still get wet by the rain.
Right, right.
It's
And hope there's a
robbery.
spot over there. You know?
You got your $800.
Right. Exactly. 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 That ROI piece is so, so, so important. So important. And it's so important, again, for parents to love their kids enough to have these kinds of conversations, to say to them, look, when I went to school, like I had somebody recently who said, you can't work full time and go to school. I was like, you know what? If that's what you believe, then that is true for you.
That's right.
Respectfully, that is not true. But that is
No,
true for you because you've already
right.
shut down. But each one of us, Theresa and I have each 168 hours every single week. If we work 40 hours a week, which is a full-time position, 40 hours a week is 24% of our week. We still have 76% of our week to sleep, to go to class, to study, to party, to be in a sorority or fraternity, to go to sporting events, to chill out, to hang out in the whatever. That's working full-time. There are 33 states that if you work for their educational system, their higher educational system, you get free tuition and fees in their system.
See, that's good to know too. And so now that I want to piggyback off of that statement a little, like with parents that has a student, and if the parent is a high income earner, how do you recommend that they send their student to college debt free? Like they may be high income earners, but then they just really don't have that liquid cash. How do you recommend that they send their students to college? Because they can't get the FAFSA. So what else is available?
Well, so when you're looking at that, everything that I teach about debt-free degree, it's regardless of what your parents' income is. It's the same steps. It is grants and scholarships. There's 46 billion with a B grants and scholarships out there. Now, here's the other thing, Theresa. I ironically was on a different podcast earlier today, recording a different podcast. And so I am today years old hearing this, and now I'm imparting it to your audience. I did not know that there were schools out there that capped how much you could earn in non-governmental scholarships at $5,000.
Well, I didn't know that either.
It just so happened that the podcast host was telling me this story, and she later sent me the link. And it is the school that she was talking about is an expensive school and an elite school. It's definitely one you've heard of, but not one of the top ones, But it was, I'd heard of the school. It's a prestigious school. But the podcast host, her child earned a scholarship of $5,500. And they said, well, this exceeds our limit and and so they're going to have to do Parent Plus loans because it's August when we're recording this. And, they thought that was going to be covered. Now, the difference is $500 because but they had already taken Parent Plus loan for a different gap and thinking that this $5,500. And so there's some you got to really do your research. You got to really look into those schools. You have to really think about all the different ways. And that's the thing that makes debt-free degree beautiful and difficult, is because there's not an easy path. What's easy is to walk into financial aid and say yes to the loan.
As much as I can get. And you know what? You have to talk about the student loan forgiveness program. Like they're forgiving the student loans, but they're still giving the student loans. Do you have a thought or feeling about the student loan forgiveness program?
Yes, I do. I know several people who took a whole bunch of loans with the idea that they would take positions and jobs that would make it such that would go away. And somehow, some way, every single one of them have gotten crossways in that system, and it hadn't. The thing that they thought was going to pay it off some way, somehow, there are a bunch of loopholes. They didn't see it. And so I don't know anybody personally who has taken a bunch of loans, done the thing that they said they would do, like, Title I school or whatever, and gotten it paid off. Now, I know several people who have gotten their loans forgiven recently in the last, few years. And what I will say is every single one of them, if you add up what they borrowed and what they've paid back that loan. It's the interest that keeps going up. And that's why people are upset, because they're like, well, I'm giving everybody a handout. No, they've already paid that money back. It's the interest. Now, I interviewed somebody not too long ago. She graduated 23 years ago with $75,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
She's made a payment every single month. She paid off the private ones. It's the governmental ones that are unsecured. So the interest keeps going up every month.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's made a payment every single month for 23 years. She currently owes $60,000 because it keeps going up. So during the pandemic, it was, well, you don't have to make a payment. So she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That was fine. But the interest kept going up. When all of this started happening, Theresa, I have a webinar that I told you all about. And so I talk about 1.76 trillion is our student loan debt crisis. And I came up with that number, year and a half ago, whatever it was. And so, recently I was like, I need to update my slides. And so it needs to obviously go down, right? Because we've done all this debt forgiveness. So the number needs to go down. No, ma'am. As of last week, 1.8 trillion, 1.8 trillion, because the interest keeps going up.
And that is so scary. And then parents, we want the best for our children. But when we get the student loans, we are making that number go higher. Yeah. And there is just nothing better than a degree that's debt free.
That's right.
So I hope that, your message, that they're understanding and hearing what you're saying, how important it is. Love yourself enough.
Right. That's right.
To get your degree free.
Yes.
And so how do you feel about parents using the 529 plans and other savings plans that are out there for colleges?
I think those are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Whatever a parent can do that they are not, again, not going into debt. Now, there have been parents who have used, home equity lines of credit or, something like that. To me, that's a little bit along more the loan side than 529 side. There are people that can write a whole check for, out of their 529 or out of their bank account. They can write the check, and they're saying, so, why should I even worry about a debt-free degree? Well, there's $46 billion in OPM out there, grants and scholarships. And so if you have that 529, particularly if it's not going to, meet every educational goal that your child has, perhaps tapping into some of that OPM, not drugs, not opium, OPM,
right.
Perhaps, tapping into that would be helpful. Right. And so, the 529 is amazing. There are also lots and lots and lots of other opportunities out there that if you're going to put money into something, of course, I'm not a financial planner, so you need to talk it over with your financial planner and your accountant for making those decisions. But a 529 is beautiful. Now, I will say, I talked with another lady and she got crossways because, and it could be that, that semantics wise, the question you asked me, Theresa, is I'm not answering it apples to apples. I will admit. This lady was living in a state when her child was born, completely thought she'd be there forever, was pouring into a college system, had the opportunity to either put away money for tuition or put away money for tuition and housing. And so they only did tuition because she herself, as a college student, never lived in the dorm. She lived at home and saved that money. And so that's what she thought her child would do too. Well, then it pops up that, oh my goodness, life happens and she's not living in that state. So the child can't commute. And so now the state is honoring the system, but the schools require you to live on campus. So now all of a sudden it's like, well, how come I didn't at birth do, but she didn't know. And so she's looking at scholarships and doing some other things, and like one way you can save money, for housing is at many schools. You can't usually do it your freshman year, but at many schools, starting your sophomore year, if you're a resident assistant, an RA in a dorm, you get free dorm and sometimes even free food. So you're getting paid to be an RA plus free housing plus your free meal plan.
Okay. And that's good. That's worth it to me.
Yeah. Pick your hard, Theresa.
That's right. And you better pick right. Pick your hard. And so how important, Dr. Roz, are grades and extracurricular activities?
Okay. So again, you're talking to somebody who I will just say, well, you've asked me my opinion. So I'm going to give you my opinion. And then everybody else is going to also have their opinion because opinions are a little bit like elbows. Everybody's got at least two.
Yep.
And so I am going to say that if you can be accepted to a college, then you're college material. And there are a lot of students who are accepted to college with not a stellar GPA. They might not have a 3 in front of their GPA. They probably have at least a 2 in their high school GPA, but it might be 2.0. It's entirely possible to go to college and get a 4-year degree, having not once ever, never, never, never had an extracurricular activity. Is your path harder? Is it a little more limited? Perhaps, but it's also possible. There are plenty of folks who, well, of course, now SAT and ACT at a lot of schools can be optional. But, prior to the pandemic, there were paths where you could graduate with a 4-year degree or a master's or a PhD, having never taken the SAT or the ACT, because there are community colleges that don't require it. So you can start at a community college that's open admission and then build up what you need to transfer to a 4-year school. And then your degree at your 4-year school is what gives you entry to your master's. And then, of course, the master's to the PhD. So it's entirely possible. There are ways to do it. And so I would say if a child wants to go to college, then let's go to college. Let's figure it out.
I love that. And so if we have someone listening and they may have a freshman in college, well, not in college, but in high school, what do you recommend that the parents do as they have a freshman in high school to start preparing their child to have a debt-free degree?
Yes. Number one, add one word at the end of all of your statements. And you can start this as a freshman in high school. You can start this from the time you birth this child. You're rocking this little baby. I love you, baby doll. You're going to go get you some education post-high school, and you're going to get that education debt-free. One word. I mushed it all together, debt-free. It's not even hyphen. Just add debt-free. Just changing a little bit of that messaging, debt-free. Yes, you're going to go to college. Yes, you're going to be a welder. Yes, you're going to do whatever it is you're going to do, be an entrepreneur, debt-free education-wise. That's the first thing. The second thing is, so starting today, like let's get this started. The second thing is, I would say to parents and students, begin having these conversations today and put it on the calendar. Because what happens is parents are tired of talking about college and tired of the pressure, and students are tired to talk about it all day long, every day. And so if you put it on the calendar, then each of you, the student and the parents, the family members, y'all have agreed to, this is when we're going to talk about college. And so the student knows, like, for example, I used to be really strategic. I did not have that exact conversation with my son, and he's now 25, but I used to be really strategic. If there was something that I needed to talk to him about, then I knew how long the commute was to school. So I might start it like 4 minutes before we got to school. Now, I'm not talking about I brought up something that was going to ruin his day, but just like something kind of icky and sticky that, you just got to talk about because, families got to talk about stuff, right? I would start it about 4 minutes before we got to school, because even without me verbalizing it, he knew internally, I only have to listen to this woman for 4 minutes in his car. Like, it is not sit down at dinner before you take one bite. Let me tell you what we're talk about, because, oh my goodness, that might be 30, 45 minutes, So being really clear, and students, y'all can use this with your family too. So I have the GRIT blueprint for communication.
Okay.
It is G, give an ear. R is respond. I is intervene. And T is all three, all hands on deck. And so students and parents, educators, lots of folks are using this because you can have these conversations when you are talking to a 5-year-old. As a parent, as a family member, it's hard to say, are you asking me to listen to you or do you want me to intervene? Like at 5, we do all the things. By the time they're in middle school and certainly in high school and in college, they need to have that autonomy. And they need to be able to say, hey, mom and dad, I'm asking you to listen. We need to be able to say to them, hey, I'm asking you to listen. I'm not asking you to respond right now. I'm asking you to hear me. And child, I want to hear you. And so my son went to, he did study abroad. And he called me because he had lost, somebody stole his passport. I mean, this mother freaked out. And I was like, oh, what we need to do? Blah, 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 blah. He goes, mom. And I was like, what? All three. I mean, like, I'm ready to jump in. He goes, Mom, I just called to tell you how I handled it.
Oh, good job, Mom.
He was calling and he needed G. He just needed me to listen, give an ear, just listen. That's all he needed. Conversely, there were times that he would call me in college and he would say, blah, 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 blah. And I would say, well, you got this. I know you're going to. No, I'm asking, like, what's your opinion? So then it's like, oh, you're asking me to respond. Okay. Now, it's been a super long time, like years and years and years and years, since he has employed the I of intervene, because he doesn't need his mama to intervene for him at 25 years old. That's kind of gone away. But this is such a powerful communication tool because it allows everybody to be on the same page. So those are my 2 tips. Start today with the message that we're going to graduate debt free, and set aside the time that we're going to talk about it and figure out the debt free degree plan.
Okay. Well, this is grasped my heart for some reason. I didn't even plan on asking you this question, but it's in my heart. I'm not going to let you go without us asking this question. This is your opinion, but I honestly value your opinion because of your experience. How do you feel, or what are your thoughts about parents sending their children to private schools and investing all this money in private education, and then when it comes to college, they have to get student loans?
Okay, my opinion.
Your opinion.
My opinion. So I always say begin with the end in mind. And I believe that debt-free education is our end in mind. Now, with that being said, I have a really good friend who has 2 kids. And kid number 1, and we live here in Georgia. Where do you live, Theresa?
In Texas, San Antonio.
Texas. So I don't know if in Texas y'all have this program, but here in Georgia, if you have a certain GPA, then you get what's called Hope Scholarship, which is tuition and fees for free at any in-state institution, depending on your GPA. Sometimes it's just tuition. So this child number 1 excelled through public high school and got Hope Scholarship, and they had set aside some money, so they were able to help him do a few things. Child number 2 really struggled in high school, really struggled, probably 7th grade. So they had that child in private school. And what they said to that child from day one, we're spending what we would have spent in college, we're spending now. We believe it is absolutely vital for you to be here, for you to flourish, and understand we're not going to have anything afterwards because we're spending a little bit earlier than we anticipated, which means you need to get your grades up so that you get Hope Scholarship. It means that you might not get to go to perhaps the schools that your brother got to look at because of price tag, because you're going to be limited, and we need you to go to an in-state Georgia institution, which there were at the time, like I think there's like 30 of them or something. So it's not like, but still, and so, he was able to look at the US and she, had a little bit fewer choices. So for me, because I'm begin with the end in mind, then I'm all about not taking any loans. And I understand that you might need to spend that money a little bit earlier. Here's the thing. If you have a child that that needs that private education, and you can do that without any loans, because I think there are people now getting loans for that as well. Different story. Or home equity loan, different things. I think there are people who are going into debt to send their child to private school. That's the way I'll put it.
I agree.
Then setting them up the very best way that you can. So say, for example, your child is brilliant. Your child's come through this private school and y'all don't have a dime. Well, why not help them get a job 40 hours a week at an in-state public institution? Because if it's free tuition and fees, plus they're earning a salary and they're earning towards their retirement and they got health insurance and whatever, and it's like, now I remember talking to a dean of a college, and I was explaining to them this is one aspect of debt-free degree is students could work full time. And she said, oh, no, Elizabeth, a little bit condescendingly, actually. She said, no, Elizabeth, no. Student workers, that they don't get free tuition and fees. I said, oh, I understand. Not student workers. I'm talking about employees. I'm talking about you don't have a bachelor's degree, so maybe you qualify to be an admin, or you qualify to work in food service, or you qualify for a full-time job as, a janitor or lawn maintenance or whatever. But then you get free tuition and fees. It's one of the employee benefits. And she goes, immediately, Theresa, she goes, but that would throw off our graduation rate.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure we're here to meet arbitrary graduation rate. Elizabeth is all about debt-free degree.
Now that is stunning.
Mhm.
They care about the graduation rates.
Mhm.
They don't care about the student loan part. They
Right,
don't care about helping the student. They
because
don't.
whoever they're reporting to is saying your graduation rate, you've got to get it here. You got to do everything you can to get it here. But that's arbitrary because you're graduating people perhaps with a lot of debt. So it's begin with the end in mind. And so when I have students that say, well, you said you could map any degree completely debt free, and I want to go to this school and get this niche degree, and how come you're lying? You're not able to do that debt free. And I'm like, your end in mind is that school and that degree. Your end in mind is not debt-free degree.
Wow. I like that. Now that could go on a t-shirt. So that's what you tell them.
In love, completely in love.
But it's true.
Completely in
It
love.
really is. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And so this conversation is so juicy, but I got to keep you for a few more minutes, okay?
Okay.
Your clubs. Can you tell the listeners how your being a part of their club could help them?
Well, the club is called Debt Free Degree.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole club declaration. You can go to my website and read the declaration. And one of my favorite lines in here is that we understand that earning a degree is both individual and communal.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is we're interconnected. And so like one of the things that I had them do, and so all the curriculum is every month has a theme. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have curriculum for every month, 4 weeks. So let's say, for example, Theresa, you're going to be a club advisor. You're going to start in September. So you would show September week 1 to your students, to your club, whoever that is. And I envision a middle school, a club at every middle school and high school in the nation. I mean, that's where I'm heading. So I've established 4, and I have, what is it, 100,000 more to go. Or something.
Wow.
But you would show the curriculum for week 1. And then in October, you would show October week 1. Now, let's say, for example, you keep this club going for several years. Well, then next year you show September week 2 and October week 2, and so you loop through. So it's 48 weeks of information and material in this club. Eventually, it is fully built out on paper and not currently in the portal, but it will be. And so you can have folks that are exchanging email addresses. Like that's one of the things I have people do is establish an email address that is not elizabethlovesgummybears@gmail.com, right? It's
Right.
like, you need a professional email address. Now, here's the thing, and this is what I tell my student. I have friends who are on scholarship committees who said that people, they would email them, hey, you won, and they didn't answer. Knock, you won. Second email, third email. After the third email, and they don't answer by a certain date, they have to move on. There are people that left money in their inbox because they did not check their email. So while I want you to have a professional email, I need you to check that email and respond.
Right. Okay.
And so then the second thing that happens is, and this was a really cool thing that happened. I heard a student who was talking about looking at scholarships, and this teacher, who was not even a part of the Debt Free Degree Club, had mentioned she wanted to go get her master's, but she didn't know how she was going to pay for it or something like that. He gave her the scholarship link. He's searching. He finds something, hey, this is how you can get your master's. He gives it to her. Because when we all understand that when Theresa is graduating debt free, it's good for Elizabeth, and vice versa. And that goes back to the Kingian nonviolence piece. Dr. King talked about if Theresa is not all Theresa should be, then Elizabeth is not all she should be, and vice versa. That we're all interconnected, that we're communal, that we're creating and cultivating the beloved. Think about what communities look like. Like you were talking to Jasper about generational wealth, and he was talking about how there are zip codes that don't have specific services. Immediately in my mind, I thought, I need to Google how to get in touch with these zip codes, because that's where I want Debt Free Degree to be. So not only are some places saying, if you're in this zip code, I don't want to go there. Debt Free Degree is saying, I want that. Like I intentionally want to. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
So yes, I can establish a Debt Free Degree club at the Hoop-de-Doo private high school. Excited to do that. My heart and my passion is to put it in places that don't have access to this. They don't yet have access to personal wealth, much less generational. They don't have access to what can be out there besides take the loans and figure out how to pay it off later.
Right. And then get more. And then when they get the loan, get more than what they even need. So in those zip codes, that's exactly what they do. They're not going to get just enough to cover the tuition. They're going to get enough to live off of, party off of, buy a car off of. And so you're right. That's exactly where you need to be. That would be a God-given gift to reach those zip codes. And
So
so
if you can tell me how to do, like how to, offline, teach me how to search for those zip codes and connect me with people in there, or maybe connect me with Jasper if there's a way that, that he and I can link arms and say, okay, you're going to go in and do the financial planning. I'll come in and, impart the debt-free degree piece. And yeah, let's change it. Let's change the system.
We're going to change it. And I'm not going to cry, but I will get you connected with Jasper.
Thank you.
You're going to make changes.
Yes.
And so with the club is basically for people who are determined to get debt-free degrees. So it could be a teacher, a student, but the club is for individuals who are determined to get a debt-free degree.
Yes. And I'll be honest with you right now. Like I said, I have 4 clubs established. 3 of them at the impetus of a parent, and 1 of them at the impetus of a community member. None of them are at the impetus of an educator, because educators are tired. They are really tired. We put far too much on them. Now, everyone needs some type of, if it's a school-based club, they need an educator to be kind of involved, or the building supervisor or something like that. And that's great. But like to put the impetus on there, and see, we have club leaders, students who are club leaders. Students have, every club gets 10 different people's email addresses that can have access to the curriculum. So some of them have student leaders that have access to the curriculum. And people are like, Elizabeth, why would you let a student see behind the scenes and go into like the teacher portal? I'm like, it's wide open. It's transparent. I want them to understand this.
Right.
I'm writing a book that'll come out in October of 25, and it will be the Debt-Free Degree Club Advisor Handbook. And then it will have all 48 weeks of worksheets, because we have a worksheet every time. And so students can start building a portfolio, so yeah.
Okay. And so you're the first person that I have asked to do this. So I'm going to ask you, with your debt-free degree, can you just let the audience know like the titles of a couple of your chapters? Because I really encourage people to get your book, because they don't know how bad it is to have a degree with debt on it until they're done with school. They have their living expenses, and then they have a $250 or $300 a month student loan payment that they have to pay, and the interest is outrageous. I can speak on it because I had a student loan that I had to pay off. So I'm encouraging the listeners, get this book for yourself, your niece, your nephew, somebody. Bless somebody with this book. And we need to shut these student loans down, especially if there's all this money available that you can get.
Yes.
And you can graduate debt-free.
Yes.
Graduating with a student loan debt, you're already under the 8 ball.
That's right. That's right. So chapter number 1 title is What's Love Got to Do with It? Chapter number 2, we've already talked about this, 46 billion. Chapter number 3, Maximum Brilliance for Minimum Buckaroo. Chapter 4 is Work Smarter, Not Harder. Chapter 5 is The Power of 3. And chapter 6 is Debt-Free Degree Revolution. Debt-Free Degree Revolution. Did I already share with you my Dr. King quote?
Tell me again, because I gotta let you go, but can you just explain what the nonviolent revolution is that you were speaking on?
Yes. So my favorite Dr. King quote is, a social movement that moves merely people is a revolt, but a social movement that transforms, and I always add with students, caterpillar to butterfly, a social movement that transforms people and institutions is a revolution. 8 billion people loving 8 billion people, that's a revolution.
Wow.
Graduating fully debt-free, altering the higher education funding industry from debilitating debt to financial freedom, that's a revolution. And that's what we're creating and cultivating, is built on Kingian nonviolence, which our definition of nonviolence at the King Center, it is a love-centered way of thinking, speaking, engaging, and acting. So how can I be love-centered with myself and others? And it leads to personal, and then cultural, and then societal transformation. If I just take those zip codes, because here's the thing, Theresa, these clubs are wide open. Like I have X amount of hours a day that I can talk to people about these clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can get introductions and ask for introductions, and that's what I've done. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't research people in every zip code in the US. I need a place to start. I want those zip codes. I want those zip codes because that's how we impact the culture and then society as a whole. What would it look like if every single person, like every dollar that you spent to pay back those student loans, what if you had invested 10% of that in your community?
Right.
How much more quickly could you have bought a home or a car, an asset?
Right.
You know, all of those things that we can alter every bit of it with a debt-free degree.
I love it. Dr. Roz, thank you so much. This was more impactful than I expected it to be.
Good.
It was very, very good.
Good.
Thank you so much for spending this time with the audience and myself.
Delighted to be with you. Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if you have anything else that you would like to share, one more little nugget, we'll take it.
So you do have a landing page that I've got just for your listeners. And when you go there, there's the free chapter 1 of the book is there. So if you don't have access to buying the book and you want the free chapter 1, then that is there. And also the invitation to my free webinar. So I do 2 free a month and you attend as many as you want. And I do laser coaching at the end and I answer questions. So come and ask questions. If you've got questions, be delighted to talk to you all about that.
Perfect. And then tell us your website one more time so that we can get it into the show notes.
drroz.love. All of my pages are in .love because that's what we're all about.
That's it. We're all about love. And look, thank you so much, Dr. Roz, and we will see you the next time. Look, love is here, and God bless you for your work and that you're doing. Okay.
Much blessings to you too, love. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye, beloveds.
Bye-bye.